I tried to steal the Pritchard Cup, but security guard stopped me on my way out.
Let's be honest. You're wiry strong, but you can't pick up that trophy.
No, Brandon French at one point's holding the trophy.
And you're like, that wrist is not ready.
And he's like, guys, I have 3 ligaments in my wrist. Pick it up. Like he's about to drop it on television. Fun fact, Pritchard Cup is very heavy.
You tuned in now to this pickleball life. I'm K-Dubs and Jilly B is my wife. She's the pro and I've got the filler. She's sweet to me, but on the court she's a killer. Unadulterated and efficiently bringing you the best and worst things in PB. Tell your friends and stay for another. And no one loves us more than your mother. One thing's for sure, one hit and you're addicted. Grab a pal, grab a court, don't resist it. So click subscribe, let's go, let's get cracking. Things on gun, let's go, let's get laughing. This pickleball life.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of This Pickleball Life. I'm K-Dubs.
I'm your girl, Jilly B.
And on this pod, we're going to talk about all things PB from health to wealth, and we spice it up with some occasional insider knowledge from our top 20 pro. But today will be a bit heavier on the pro pickleball side. Now, rest easy. Those of you who enjoy the fact that we are not 100% all about what happened at every pro tournament, you will still be learning a lot about how to succeed on the court and what you do off the court that you bring to the court with you to play your best. So stay with us, and those of you who are loving the deep dive into pro pickleball, you are in for a treat. But as a reminder, you will get alerted when our new episodes drop if you subscribe to Jilly B Pickleball on YouTube and hit that bell to make sure you are getting those notifications. Helps us, helps you. Stay tuned. And we appreciate all of you who have joined us and have stayed with us through all 12 episodes. But keep sharing, keep commenting. We've got some questions for you later that we really want you to drop some comments in on. But thanks again for helping us grow organically on our fully independent podcast here and fully love grown here. But today we have 2 weeks of pickleball to cover. We took a break last week with our back-to-back San Clemente events. So we had PPA and then MLP. If you've been living under a rock, now you know. And our girl Jilly B not only claimed the title, but also grabbed the MVP prize. Big congrats to you, Jill. I'm so proud. I do feel very much like I won both of those prizes as well. But basically, yeah.
Well, you get to share.
We're going to Margaritaville.
Yeah, you get to share in 50% of all the proceeds and had 0% of the on-court work or sun or sweat. So I'll trade you any day.
I think at least 5% of the on-court work and sweat. I think I get something.
In all seriousness, being in your position is way more stressful. Like there is nothing worse than watching a loved one compete in a sport and you have no control over it and you're going to a Dreambreaker. Like I can only imagine how hard it must have been for you. And my sister and my mom who are having like anxiety attacks on the side of the court.
No, I mean, it's fun stress. It's fun stress. Don't have too much empathy for me.
Okay, I won't.
But with that, let's delve into pod number
12. That could be the best one yet.
Wow, thank you. It just came to be.
Just like that.
So I'm going to take off my my DPC hat while we talk about the PPA for a minute. But first off, we've been told for basically the past 2 years that San Clemente Lifetime is the best location in pickleball, the best venue. How did the venue live up to your expectations?
Only rivaled by the other Lifetime in Atlanta. That's so beautiful. Yeah, I mean, kudos to Lifetime. It made me want to join the San Clemente location for the few times a year I'm back home in Newport Beach visiting, which from a cost standpoint makes utterly no sense, but that's how compelling and beautiful that Lifetime is. Easy to navigate around. The courts were awesome. Everything was really centrally located. The food is great. All the staff are so friendly. Like kudos to Lifetime. This podcast is not sponsored by Lifetime, but both MLP and PPA are official partners of Lifetime. So I feel compelled.
Lifetime, we are open to it. We are open to collaborating.
I have been meaning to write someone there, actually. I have a couple friends. But kudos to them for developing just a really cool like work culture. Again, you can tell everyone's happy for developing just a incredible pickleball and tennis facilities. And like I said, the food's awesome and everything's like marble and granite and just gorgeous stone. And the members were all really cool. Like,
I can't believe you've skipped the most important part of any venue.
The
bathrooms.
Parking. Oh, bathrooms are pristine. And even though I didn't get to use it, there was a sauna and a jacuzzi, but it was like nice for me to know I could.
You know it was there.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like it helped me not need it.
And warm.
Yeah.
It is interesting, though. I mean, we know it. Jill grew up in Orange County, and I met her living there. But you have this weird effect that they sometimes call marine layer. They sometimes call June gloom. They sometimes call May gray. But, like, it can be actually cold at any point in the summer.
Yeah.
So you got to wear all layers.
Not for me. I think growing up in Orange County, first off, that's my favorite climate to play in when it's that May gray, June gloom. So you have no sun. It's a little damp. It's just nice. Like, you're not hot. You're not dying on the
for
court.
Sure. For sure.
And guess I'm accustomed to it. Even at night when we were playing till 9 at night, 9:30 at night on Thursday, and everyone was in like sweaters, I was totally fine, which is so weird because I'm always cold. So I think there was just an aspect of being in your hometown on your, home courts that helps.
Well, we're going to dive into a part of, I think, why that is that you played 7 matches that day. You didn't have a lot of rest time to get cold.
It's a good point. The inflammation was at an all-time high. I wasn't going to get cold for like a week.
Right. Well, that was your Saturday, but to rewind back to
PPA.
To the Benny New. No. I mean, in the Sarah match, you had 7 matches, but in the mixed day, you played with Ben Newell, your future and now past MLP teammate, which was a good getting to know you. Benny New, if you don't already know, was an add-on because Brandon French had to have surgery on his wrist and didn't feel like he was ready to be at the same level that he played the last 2 events. So did a solid for the team and bowed out soon enough.
What's funny about the Ben Newell PPA that we played in right before MLP was I couldn't hit a ball. Thought it was the worst pickleball I'd literally ever played. I was getting used to a new paddle. So Grooven has produced a thermoformed paddle called Movin that they just started taking pre-orders for. And I was just getting used to just a much hotter face, a much softer face, despite being faster and hotter. It's not hard because it's a 16 millimeter. So I just couldn't hit a ball. Ben and I said to Ben, I've never played this bad. Don't worry. You're going to have MLP Jill next week.
And boy, were you right. But what did you guys, other than feeling like you got, a round out that you just were getting used to your paddle?
By the way, sometimes I pray for like
the bad day before the good day.
The bad day before the good day. Yeah. Cause I think how likely is it that I'm going to have like 2 awful weeks in a row or 2 really bad days in a row? So when I was playing competitive tennis, matches were on Saturdays, I would either not practice on Friday, just let my body rest, or just pray for an awful day.
Yeah, I mean, that is, again, back to like mentally tough. You always feel like if I'm having a bad day now, that means I'm guaranteed not to tomorrow.
Exactly. Statistically, I won't have 2 bad days in a row.
Come on. And I think it's the same in golf. It's like, I hit that shot bad, but the next one's going to be great, obviously. And obviously, there's people who aren't capable of thinking of it that way. But you did play in the very first round against 2 up-and-coming players that really impressed me. One of which is on a MLP team, got herself on a MLP team, Rihanna Valdez, who was playing with, I think, Orange County, or at least Southern California guy, Eric Pilate, I think you pronounce his last name. Sorry if I'm wrong.
I've been saying it like Perot, like Hercule Perot.
Hercule.
Any Agatha Christie fans out here?
You know that Agatha Christie fans run deep. They run deep. The Venn diagram of this pickleball life and Agatha Christie are like basically the same circle. But yeah, anything else that helped playing with Ben that one more day?
Oh, I mean, it's super helped. I mean, we're 2 singles players on a pickleball court, and I think for most of the time during MLP, we ended up playing like I formation, like literally.
Yeah. Fastest man in pickleball.
Yeah, he's the fastest person I've ever seen on a pickleball court. Skirt!
Yeah, insert clip of Ben, the fastest man from the baseline to the kitchen line, sliding into the kitchen.
But I learned a really interesting lesson playing with him that day, which was just because your partner's driving doesn't mean you need to crash. So Ben's just more comfortable hitting a 3rd shot drive. That always has meant to me, like, my job's to go up and clean it up. That was not working for us. And I think that's why we actually lost our very first match, was just no communication on that drive and what I should do. And then I realized, like, I should just stay back. Like he's just setting up a really easy 5th and 7th for us. And that was really educational for me. You don't have to shake and bake every time someone's driving.
I feel like I honestly heard, of all players, a Ben Johns quote where he said a lot of times the point of a drive third is just to set up an easier drop 5th.
Absolutely.
And that it's not just to win the point for
certain. It just felt like such a shame to me because his drives are so good, but it just was not working with me shaking and baking. So we stayed back and were patient coming in, and that helped the most during MLP.
Awesome. So
actually during MLP, I ended up taking the majority of the thirds and just letting him go feast.
Yeah. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the advantages of having a lefty on a mixed court.
Totally.
He's just right there in the
everywhere,
middle.
everywhere at all times.
Nothing is out of his reach because he's so fast. He can explode, and I don't know if it's still technically a Burt when you're at the baseline, but he's all over it. So that was fun to watch, and I really, we'll dive into MLP more with Ben. But then you played with Sarah in women's the next day, and as you have many times this year, your second round was Irina and Etta, but after that, you guys really found
There's
something.
2 guarantees in life, that the days of the week end in Y, and that I will play Irina and Etta every second round of a PPA. Those are the only 2 guarantees, and death and taxes.
Wait, and there's one more guarantee, that you'll play Lucy and Matt in mixed.
Correct, in the second round
yes,
as well.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah. Bet on it. When we get betting in pickleball, you can bet on that one.
bet on the draws.
Chill straw. But what did you and Sarah really figure out that unlocked some real synergy on the court?
I think I had.
You guys took down some pretty big players, Leia and Tyra, Anna and Megan.
Yep. So I think I had probably the most mental breakthrough revelatory experience with Sarah at the PPA San Clemente. She really helped me resolve this issue that I've been going through, that a lot of you watching at home have probably experienced. I know a lot of you have written in about this, which is, why can't I close out a match? And there's been all these instances in the past 3 months since I've come back to pro pickleball and abandoned my corporate job, where it'll be 12-12, me and Andre Deskew against Anna Bright and James Ignatowicz, and can't close out. Hurricane Tyra Black and I win the first game against Irina and Jessie, lose the second, and it's 8-all in the third, and we lose. Tyler Lung and I are up 8-3 in the third against Matt and Lucy, lose.
What is this really evidence of?
What?
That you remember the losses more than the wins.
That too.
How you even can recall these things right on the tip of your tongue.
Oh man,
sad truth of life.
And Sarah and I are up 10-5 in the first at the PPA San Clemente against Irina and Etta. And we lose that. We lose that first game 12-10. That's statistically pretty hard to do, actually. You're up 10-5. You're playing well. You're feeling good. So what's happening? And we did lose that game. I think we lost 12-10. I'm sorry, we lost that match 12-10. And then I think, don't quote me, 11-7. I'd have to go back and look.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, 11-7 or 11. Yeah, I think 11-7. And Sarah, after the match, says to me, I think I know what your problem is. And I said, well, which one and how much time do we have? And she goes, no, you start playing differently when we get to 10-5, 10-6, 10-7, 10-8, when it's an important moment. Have you ever considered telling yourself that the score is 0-0? And I was like, oh my gosh, she's totally right. I used to do that in tennis all the time. And in tennis, you can hide from the game score a lot because you don't have a referee screaming every point. 8, 4, 2, 9, 3, 1. It's the score is constantly being screamed at you in pro pickleball, but you've got to play like it's 0-0. And I think something had started happening to me in these really big moments where I started playing more conservatively, not my aggressive self, or then you tell yourself, you're playing too conservatively, swing bigger. When none of those things are the answer. The answer is play the game. It's 0-0. What got you here is going to get you there. And as soon as she said that to me after that match, we rolled. We rolled through the back draw. We beat Leia and Tyra. We beat Anna Bright and Megan. And unfortunately, we just ran out of gas at 9:30 at night. The day had started at 9 a.m. with Maggie and Mary, and kudos to them. They took 5th and we took 6th. But
Yeah,
I
warmed up with
brought
Mary
that-
and Maggie and finished at 9 p.m. with Mary and Maggie. So 9 a.m. warm up, Mary and Maggie. 9 p.m. finish, Mary and Maggie.
warm down.
The full brasha sandwich.
Anyway, I took that 0-0 mentality into MLP, and I think that has been the most mentally impactful piece of advice anyone has given me on a court in a really long time. And my mom was mad at me when I told her. She went, "I've been telling you that on a tennis court since you were 7 years old, Jill."
I know. That used to happen to me all the time in skiing and golf. As my dad would tell me something, and I'd be like, yeah. And then my coach would say the same thing like a week later, and I'd be like, shit, my dad was right. But let me ask you another question. If the refs in pickleball, instead of yelling 10-5-2, if they said 10-5-2, 10-5 deuce.
Are you
would
asking if
play
they had an
better?
Australian accent, if it would be less impactful? What are you asking?
Well, that's how they say it in tennis, right? 30 love deuce. I was just wondering if it's the accent and the intonation that's bothering you, or just the fact of the score being said.
Oh man, no, nothing bothered me. That's the thing. I didn't even realize the score was getting in my head. Mm-hmm. And it is.
Which is also a testament to
was.
you, because I don't think you think anything's bothering you until something
well,
like
also in collegiate tennis, you
unlocked.
don't have the ref announcing the score. Sorry, what you're referencing is like when you turn on ESPN and you're watching the
That's it.
finals
You
of
don't-
Wimbledon.
You don't have scores until you get to
No.
full pro.
But you're right. To that point, if I did play college tennis and I did have someone screaming the score, the ref every time, maybe that would be in my head. But your opponent is supposed to call the score.
Oh, okay.
But they're calling the like 15-30, 15-40. They're not calling like it's
The whole
3-all.
thing.
Yeah, the set score, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even in nationals, they don't have refs with a mic for tennis. Interesting. Shows how much of a golfer I am. No clue. So what does it take to do well in a PPA tournament compared to what it takes to do well in MLP? And we'll obviously dive into MLP more deeply, but what is in your mind of how to continue to succeed on the PPA?
Well, that's generous. Continue to succeed on the PPA. I mean, I've had a
Continue
bunch
to improve.
improve, perhaps. Yeah, I've had a bunch of top 10 finishes. One opportunity to get to a semifinal, but Sarah's paddle was challenged, and we that opportunity was not available. And then obviously this top 6 finish in a really deep, large draw and field with Sarah felt really good. I think playing more, getting more points will obviously result in better draws. Playing more consistently with a partner. Every time Sarah and I play together, we do learn something about each other. I'm playing a lot with Tyra Black as well this year. And I just think reps, like so much of this is reps. A lot of our listeners write in, like, how do I get better in tournaments? It's like, you got to go play them or try and replicate that tournament feeling as much as possible.
How would you replicate the tournament experience in practice?
I think you could say, let's post that score to Duper. You could play in a Duper Flex League, a Duper Waterfall, any type of local Duper tournament or event, whether at your club or in your city. But it's just something as simple as, let's put these scores in. Really changes the complexion of a game, even for pros.
Yeah.
Pros during practice.
Do you think anyone's doing that?
I think gambling, like literally bet $20 with your friends on the outcome
Now
of a
we're
game.
talking.
Yeah, you like that,
Yeah,
Kristen?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was always my dad's advice in golf. So
Yeah, bet. Like,
throwing it back. Happy Father's Day, by the way.
well, I think if you go out and you play rec play and you put nothing on the line, like you kind of wasted an opportunity to replicate some type of tournament atmosphere and feel and
Yeah.
push yourself to that next level.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of talked about it earlier today with like whether you're
could be
playing
for
for
lunch. Play for
$60,000
lunch.
or $20,000 or $1,000 or $100, like putting something on it gets the blood boiling in
Yeah.
a way that I think is important.
And then as far as to be successful in MLP, I mean, that's totally different, really apples and oranges. I think the key to finding success in Major League Pickleball is really simple. And it all starts with the basic fact that you're taking 4 individual contributors who grew up probably playing an individual sport like tennis, And you're asking them now to be on a team, collectively work together towards a common goal. And as team captain, I really had and have one job. That's to give every single player what they need. Now, did you hear what I didn't say? It's not what they want. It's what they need. And a perfect example of this is Daniel De La Rosa, the #1 racquetball player in the world, is on our team. And he was really flat the first 2 days. Super, super flat. He was not the DLR from Daytona who was flying around the court, hitting the ball so hard we couldn't even see it. And I talked to Brandon French about it before we went into our semifinals against DC. And I said, what are we going to do to get the old DLR back? And we agreed, like, we kind of needed to fire him up. And so I went up to him and I said, hey, Daniel, is it off season for racquetball for you right now? And he goes, yeah, how'd you know? And I go, because you look really out of shape and you're moving really slow. And he laughed, but I could tell it kind of like got him.
Yeah.
And Krista came up to me later, who's on our team, Krista Getcheva, and said, you know, I think Daniel's really feeling what you said to him. I think you really need to tone it down. I think that was too much. And, you know, what I didn't say to her is, well, it would have been too much for you. Like, you are someone who Brandon and I are going to give you a very different atmosphere. We're going to make sure you feel really supported, really confident. We're going to nickname you Goat Cheva, you know, greatest of all time. And every player needs something different. That's my point. And you have to be willing as captain to figure out what that is psychologically, deliver it to inspire the best performance, and know that that may mean that your needs are never being met.
Yeah.
Or your wants or your desires. And you have to be okay with that and dig within yourself to figure out how to give yourself what you need. And I think as a team, we did a really good job of giving each other what we thought we all needed and supporting each other.
Yeah. And in contrast, right, what it looked like in Daytona when you were giving Brandon what he needed was a very different look, very different feel.
Yeah, I had so many people.
Kudos to you for adapting to what Benny New needs.
I had a lot of people come up to me and say, like, you looked very different during MLP. Like, someone even said to me, oh, I think Jared from the kitchen was like, what's this nice Jill? I miss the old Jill. And I think this MLP, I was ultra cool, calm, collected. Like, if I were to use one word to describe how I felt, it would be predatory. Like, I literally felt like I was on the court hunting prey.
Yeah.
And to your point, in Daytona, like, Brandon played his best when I was antics and nutty and getting in people's faces and trash talking. And, like, I liked this version a lot better. This, like, ice in the veins is how I felt. I felt like I was there to do a job and execute a job. Still laughing, still smiling, still complimentary to my opponents, still having fun. It's all a balance. I don't think you can be just one thing the whole time.
Yeah. But I think you're the reason I always like Predator Jill is it combines that want the ball, that laser focus, and that icy confidence. And it really is. But I also do think that some days, like you said, you know, you have like a bad day and you're like, well,
some
tomorrow's
days you
going
need
to be
different
good.
stuff.
Some days you just need different stuff. You need to bring a different side of yourself out. Yeah, that's part of what makes the greatest players great is their ability to adapt.
Every single day is different. And there will be days where I play and I do need that crazy antics, nutty Jill. I'm sure there will. Like, you kind of don't know. You don't know until you get out there how to inspire the best performance in yourself and others.
Yeah. And to circle back, so PPA, you have the ability to pick your partner and kind of choose who you're on the field with, but less control in a way of who you have to go up against. Where MLP, you know, obviously some players have more say than others in who's on their team, but you're sort of just plopped onto a team. You've got to give these theoretically strangers and acquaintances what they need without your own choice.
Well, one of my favorite
but
questions,
a little bit more like equality and like getting to play a lot of different opponents in the group play into the brackets.
Well, one of my favorite questions to ask a new partner or a new teammate is, can you tell me about a time that you felt your best and played your best? can you describe what that felt like? So instead of asking them like, hey, how do you play your best? What can I do to make sure that you play your best? I rather them tell me like, tell me about a time. Yeah, tell me about a memory, a tournament you won, a person you played with. What did that feel like to you? Because sometimes people don't even realize what they need, right? And I think harnessing some of the experience from my previous life in the corporate world, having led as CEO 40-person teams, and then before that having led 20-person commercial sales teams, you kind of just end up getting like a psychological knack for how to inspire and bring out the best in someone. And I think in MLP, the key to winning is you have to have as many people on a team that understand that as possible, who are, you know, the joke about relationships, a good relationship is, or a relationship can't fail when each person is trying to give the other what they need.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of MLP to me. Like if everyone on the team,
if 100% of my focus is helping you win, and we're on a court together, we win.
Exactly. So the more people you can get with that, I don't know if you want to call it like a team mindset or like need mindset, need for other mindset, I think that's how you win MLP.
Yeah. So we'll circle back to a little bit more of how you succeeded at MLP in a minute, but let's take a quick break before we dive in and continue our MLP recap. I want to take this opportunity to tell you about our newest segment of the pod that we are about to add, and that is video review.
I love this point for so many reasons because Emily apologizes halfway through and Ben's like, don't worry about it. And then you guys have incredible defense. I'm going to play the point. Really nice. Ben's communicating like, let's go up. And then Ben gets a put away and goes at Fergus. So I'm going to replay that one more time. So even though Fergus is a little bit of a sitting duck, the safer play is actually to keep going right in front of you at the person who's moving back on their heels and who's a little bit weaker.
But we want to see your points. To submit your video for video review, send us an email at thispblife@gmail.com. Don't miss out on your opportunity to get some free advice from the one and only Jilly B. Okay, putting back my Dallas hat and ready to dive deep into what happened to you and with you and your whole team, the Dallas Pickleball Club at MLP San Clemente. What were your on top overall umbrella thoughts?
Dallas forever, baby. Let's go. It was pretty cool. I got a text, not directly from Mark Cuban, but a screenshot of a text that involved John Isner and Mark Cuban. And John and Mark were very fired up by the Dallas victory. I think I got like a let's LFG from Mark and like amazing exclamation mark from John.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I can't believe they missed the moment to name your team like the Sharks.
Well,
Shark Tanks.
One funny thing, Dave.
Dallas.
Dave wrote us, Dave Fleming, GOAT of general managers. If you don't know, he actually simultaneously GMs the Seattle Pioneers, who also won MLP and then took second in the Super Championship.
They went 1-2 and then 2-1.
Yep, exactly. And then, we got second in Daytona and then first, obviously, last week. So Dave says to us, hey, we have some ownership representation coming to the semifinals. You know, take a picture with them, meet them, like don't forget, you know.
They're there.
They're there. And so of course we all forget. I mean, there's
they weren't there. Were they?
So afterwards, I'm like, oh my gosh, we totally forgot to go say hi to Todd and his family. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that. And Brandon's like, no, they weren't there. And I'm like, where were they? They got the times wrong and showed up a couple hours early, so watched some other matches, and then right when we got started, they left.
They had a tea time they couldn't miss.
I don't know if that's true.
Sorry, I made that up for the record. But
sorry,
yeah.
I digress. Just giving some inside funny snippets of the week.
Totally. Was there anything else that you wanted to throw out there before I dive into my own agenda over here?
No, go ahead.
All right. So the MVP award, which as we were talking about this morning, you were kind of like, worried, wondering, kind of apprehensive about while you were playing that last match, then you realize it actually is completely determined before you even started playing.
I had no idea MVP was determined the night before. So I'm playing women's doubles like, I got to win this
Better get
thing.
some point percentages. But if we do look at the numbers, you had 10 games won and only 2 games lost, which, as
It's all I can
would
think
happen,
about, the 2
were
losses.
the first and last, right?
Oh my gosh. First and last?
No, not last.
No.
What was the other game
So
you
we lost
One mix?
our very first match, guys, of MLP, which is kind of like triple bogeying the first hole of a golf tournament. But yeah, I think we had a match point in that. I know we were up like 19-15 or something, which is a pretty big gap in rally scoring. And so, of course, like, yeah, all I can think about are my 2 losses. But you know what? I learned a lot from them. Sorry to digress. If we hadn't lost, if Chris and I hadn't lost that very first match, and I think this is an important lesson for everyone listening, because they say you don't lose, you just learn, which I kind of hate that phrase, but there is some, kiss of truth, a hint of truth to it. If Chris and I had not lost that first match, I would not have unlocked how I play my best with Krista, because it had been so long since we've played together. I kind of forgot that I spend too much time watching what she's doing, like nervous about the ball she's about to hit, and I take my eyes off of the game that's happening in front of me, which I like to play a really like horse blinders, forward facing. Like, I don't like to actually track the ball as soon as it gets into my peripheral. Like 90% of people track the ball the whole time. I'm kind of like Callie Smith, right? Like, we keep our eyes super forward the whole time. And I wasn't doing that with Krista. And that's why, like, I kept getting surprised by some speed ups that I wouldn't normally miss. So I'm grateful for that loss. And then I'm grateful for the second loss later. And I can talk about why.
Yeah. I know it's like every one of these questions and points can be digressed into 7 more questions. But bottom line, not only did you have a winning a percentage of 56% of points won in your actual doubles games, but you had a 72% Dreambreaker points won. And coming off the heels of kind of getting your, I don't know, what's the phrase, clock cleaned by Ava Radzikowska hitting like
MLP.
every line in Daytona. It was like, oh, wow, Dreambreakers, we better pay attention. And you really came out swinging.
Yeah, I think I was tied for 3rd in terms of overall percentage of points won in Dreambreakers. I was first, obviously, for games won and percentage of doubles points won. I was really pleased with my singles performance. I had not been really training singles at all. Like, I think maybe for the past 4 weeks, if I was playing doubles once a week, I'd be like, let's play a couple singles points. But it's kind of like, I think it feels a lot like riding a bike to me, to be honest. And I don't know if I was like nervous to play Judith Castillo, who's a great player, probably like top 5 singles player in the world.
She's been getting some points off Hannah Lee. She's been in some finals.
Yeah, I wasn't nervous. I was more like curious. Because she's tiny. I'm like, I'm going to pass you. And I'm going to come in and I want to see what you can do. And I think I only lost 3 or 4 points to her overall.
Yeah.
And she's a great player. Like, I was pleased with my singles performance.
No, totally. You showed up. You definitely looked solid.
I felt calm.
You looked confident.
I felt super calm. People,
for sure.
If you're listening at home and you play singles, or you ever are thinking about playing singles, like, there's this one fact that I had to remind our boys of in the first Dreambreaker against Orlando Squeeze. They were like swinging out of their shoes, like trying to paint lines, missing their drives. And here's Daniel De La Rosa playing against Callan Dawson, who's not a doubles player, or not a singles player, and he's missing ball after ball. And I finally said to Daniel, I'm like, make him play. What are you doing?
Just hit it straight over the net.
If you need to just drive it directly to his chest over the net, get it over the net. Stop trying to paint lines. And then, of course, he wins like every single point against Callan after that.
Yeah.
So my point, if you're listening at home, is like, singles is about making balls.
Yeah.
And that's why that time I played Ava Radzikowska in Daytona, like, she just made 7 incredible balls. Like, she hit 7 lines. tip my hat to her. But I made her play. I made her make those shots.
Yeah, totally.
So I did go into it with that same kind of mindset.
And of course, kudos to Pablo, Krista, and Christian who followed you in the stats. Also, really solid play.
It was interesting to look at the Dreambreaker stats for everyone because my team members were like 44, 47, 47, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'm 72, which makes sense because when I saw those, I was like, how did we win any Dreambreakers?
Yeah. Daniel had 56, Ben had 38, and Krista had 47. So yeah, thanks for Daniel. You gave him that advice in time. But
you know what? Those numbers were from before our last Dreambreaker against DC. That makes sense.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you didn't play a Dreambreaker in the finals, so I didn't add that. But which players that you played against impressed you the most this week?
You know, there's been a lot of making fun of Sam Querrey, and I think he kind of leans into that on social media. And then out of the other side of his mouth wants to be on Premiere and make shirts that say, you know, Querrey for Premiere. And
I hadn't seen he made shirts like that.
Yeah. And it's like, which one is it? Do you think you're good or do you think you're bad? And so I was very, very impressed with his game.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah, he's figuring it out.
Yeah, he's figured it out. I think it's tough to be that big,
that limmy,
that long in pickle. Like, I'm not saying that's going to hold him back or not. It's just
it's going to look different.
Yeah,
you can look like Benny New.
Skirt. I think you can play those types of people very differently. Deckel Bar, another guy that's just very, very long. So I think Sam had good touch. He didn't make many mistakes. Where he got himself in trouble was just trying to get too big and insert himself. And I've been around the block once or twice, so I just like would roll a backhand behind him, like kept hitting drives to him. We have to put together actually that video of me body bagging him 4 different times. At one point, Brandon French and I looked at each other after I drove a backhand and hit Sam Querrey. Brandon French and I look at each other and say the exact same thing at the exact same time. He can't handle it. Like we didn't say it loud enough for Sam to hear, but like Brandon and I said it to each other.
Yeah, that was a throwback to Daytona.
Yeah. And then I was super impressed with Rachel Retker.
Yeah.
So she has improved dramatically since Orlando. I thought she was like so calm.
She's on Orlando. You mean Daytona?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Since Daytona.
Are 2 different Florida cities.
Since Daytona. Thank you. But she just looked really calm, really in control of her game, like just very self-possessed. And I remember playing her in Utah and being like, uh-oh, like if she learns how to not overswing when she's at the net, like everyone's in trouble. And I knew in the very first point that we played them, or maybe it was the second point, Bobby and Rachel were at the net. Chris and I were kind of lobbing, shots back, and Rachel was just handling them like just, barely touching them, middle of the court, making us play. And I was like, we're in trouble. We're going to be in trouble. Amazing. And then, so huge kudos to her. And then Stefan Auvergne continues to be just a total presence and challenger. Tough to play. That was my only other loss.
Yeah,
Again, I
also
learned
on DC.
Yeah, also on DC. Learned a lot from that loss. We had, I think, a couple match points. And so as hungry and fiery as DC came out to beat us in the semifinals, we were also kind of hungry and fiery because we felt like we underperformed in the quarterfinals against them.
Brings me to another...
Or not the quarters, I'm sorry, the last match of group play.
Right. So brings me to another question. How much of the winning strategy in MLP is part of the coin toss choices? And you guys specifically played DC twice against against 2 different men. So the mixed lineups changed. Who decided what? Which one was you guys?
I was fully prepared for revenge on Stefan and Shelby. That's also someone else I wanted to mention I thought has improved a lot. Shelby Bates looked really good. And again, like more calm and cool and collected, and just every tournament more and more like she belongs. And I was fully prepared to garner revenge on them. Like, I wanted to play them again so badly because we had match point and lost the night before. And they decided to throw a different lineup at us. And they put Sam and Judith Castillo at us. And that was their choice.
And
I don't know why.
Backfiring. Because you guys played the Dreambreaker in the pool, in the group play, right? And then
it ended up that Ben and I were able to clinch it.
Yeah. But another fact that the NML guys kind of noticed, the bloggers, that you kind of bring the number one mixed team to any of the guys on your team, and how much of an advantage is it to have kind of the AB, the number one girl, play with the number two guy, and the number one guy play with the number two girl, and why don't we see teams doing that more?
It's interesting. You know, I hadn't actually realized that till reading the NML blog, and I was like, oh wow, I think they're right, or there's something there. I don't know why we don't see that more. And what was interesting about this MLP is you could actually choose to reverse the gender doubles if you won the toss as well. So instead of putting women out, you could put men out. And there were a couple times where Daniel and Ben Newell had to play first. We didn't choose that, and they did not like that.
Interesting.
And so I think there's logic to teams who feel like their men's line is stronger, that they should be able to put that out.
Yeah.
I appreciate that change.
Well, one of the factors we talked about when I played minor league pickleball was who's going to be like fired up to play 2 games in a row versus who needs a rest. Mm-hmm. And maybe just in pros, like, you don't care about that. But I do think there's a factor too, like, did you just come off of a win or did you just come off of a loss, and which inspires you more? So
what's interesting about that is in our Brooklyn match where the boys lost, right? So the women won, the boys lost. Daniel walks off the court. And remember where I said, Daniel, a little upset, is the best Daniel. He walks off and goes, put me fucking out. Put me out right now. I want to go out right now. And then Brand and I look at each other, we go,
okay.
Like, oh, sure. Like, even if we had a different plan for different matchups, when Daniel says he wants to go out, Daniel gets to go out. So again, give your like psychologically know your team. If they're gonna play their best right after a loss, right after they played, and they're angry or they're feeling XYZ, you got to listen to them. Even if you have a plan, like, God laughs when we make plans.
Yeah. Which was the one where you were like, oh wow, we were really planning on the other thing, but okay. Wasn't that a grandstand match? That must have been the second DC.
Yeah, there was a match where I was like,
what you played
totally
fourth. You were planning
ready.
to play third.
It was the second DC match. Yeah. It was the semifinals, and we were ready to go out as the females, and they put their men out, and that was smart. The men won. The DC men won. Then Chris and I went out, and we won.
And then, in the mixed, Daniel wanted to play. Mm-hmm. Or Krista wanted to play. Or something.
Who knows?
But anyway. It is an interesting thing. And obviously, you can go in circles about this, even watching other teams. I think in the finals, both super finals in a way were that way, where you're like, oh, it looked like the team that got their way actually had it backfire.
Correct.
The choices they made, actually, then they went in 2-0.
Well, at one point, Brandon was like, Jill, you be the team captain. I've gotten the coin toss wrong 3 times in a row. And I'm like, well, statistically, you should actually choose the exact same thing you chose before, because the odds of that happening 4 times are pretty low. And then we had this like total philosophical debate on like, should we call heads or tails? And the 50-50 call. Can't remember what we did, but it did work out for us.
Oh man, I'm sure a statistician could tell you that.
Right.
Some complicated formula for the coin toss. So Jill, you just came off the victory for your team, and you got the MVP award at MLP. What do you think makes you or any player great at MLP?
It's definitely a different type of player. I think under normal circumstances, you perform 15% better or 15% worse under pressure, while under the scrutiny of famous team owners, your coach, your GM, your fellow playing partners, and your teammates, that pressure is going to be 20 to 25%, but you're going to perform better or worse in that MLP pressure cooker atmosphere. So you want to find players that thrive under pressure, but thrive in chaos, right?
Yeah.
Like coin flip, react, gender first, wind's going this way. We're sending you out. No, you're going to play with this person. This person's injured, substitution, draft, right? Like there is a chaotic element. And I think that takes a certain type of person. I know for me, I've lived in startups. That's been my life for the past 7 years, right? No, more than 7 years. I've led 40-person companies, both as CEO and as someone who has managed large corporate sales teams. So you also need someone who has that mentality of, okay, we are in an individual sport, but now this is a collective mindset. So how do you inspire and bring out the best in your teammates? How do you give your teammates what they need, not what they want, but what they need to make them perform at their best? So I think if you can find that blend of person, right, that's going to thrive in the chaos, that's going to play on a team even though it's an individual sport.
Think outside of their individual needs.
Yep, outside of their individual needs, and who's going to bring out the best in someone by kind of psychologically figuring out, what do they need? Do they need a kick in the butt? Do they need a pat in the back? Do they need a confidence boost? What is it? And I think those are the key elements of an MLP player. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think add into it also something about just like being able to act your way into feeling better. That energy, that on court, that ability to come back and never give up, that like the freeze is coming, we can do this.
Yep.
You've got this, I've got this, we've got this, never give up. Okay, even we lost that point, you guys are going to win. We're here for you. This is where you're going to hit it. That
100%.
I think it's the player coach that really also makes a big impact in an MLP format, where you're on the sidelines telling someone, hey, I'm watching you and them. It's hard when you're playing, right? But when you're able to watch from the bench, you can more easily help your teammates.
Every time I walked on the court, I would say to my partner, is there anywhere else in the world you would rather be than right here, right now? Because there's nowhere else I'd rather be, or with anyone else, than right here with you.
Yeah.
And that is the energy you need if you're going to play your best and bring out the best in your partners at MLP.
Get in the trenches.
Get in the trenches. Get your hands dirty. Let's go.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll see what continues to lead teams to victory. But kudos to Irina. She somehow has it figured out.
Go, baby.
Keeps it coming.
No, kudos to her and the whole Mad Drops team for finding a synergy and an energy.
I have always thought that the teams that seem to do best tend to have 2 strong men or 2 strong women. Like they double down on one side or the other. You saw the Mashers do better this week. They have Callie and Lucy. They got Matt on the team, which obviously brought some of that familiarity to Lucy's mixed game. But the Mad Drops were the #1 Duper team when I was still working for Duper before I left the data of the back of it. So I thought it was funny that the commentators kept saying like, oh, this Cinderella story. Well, it's like, yeah, Ben Johns was on the other team, but on paper they were a stronger team. And it's a team event.
I think the other thing that's really important playing a team event like this is I would say to my partner every time before the point started, like right when we were walking on court, I'd look at Ben, I'd look at Chris and go, hey, is there anywhere in the world that you would rather be right now than right here in this moment? And then I would say to them, there's nowhere else I'd rather be or with anyone else with whom I'd rather be. Like, I want to be here with you right now. Yeah. Let's do this. And I remember asking a premier player who I think was having kind of a rough day. I was like, hey, is there anywhere else you'd rather be right now? Like, this is pretty amazing. Like, here we are in San Clemente playing MLP. And he goes, yeah, I'd rather be on a beach in Mexico. and you know how much we talk about on this podcast, like, do your words and your actions control your feelings, or do your feelings control your words and your actions?
Totally. Yeah.
And you know how I feel.
Act your way into feeling better.
Yeah. Act your way into feeling better. And I felt like that was a loser mindset. And that person had a horrible tournament.
Yeah.
Horrible MLP.
So to segue, what did you physically do to stay feeling so good all week? I feel like this is the least sore you have ever been, and maybe this is just progressing into Jill is no longer going to get sore after playing pickleball because it's all you do.
Knock on wood. But
I don't know, but
I would be lying if I said bandit, my pro band, elbow band didn't make just a massive, massive difference. In fact, it was helping so much that one match I forgot to put it on. And I think you could say like, oh, well, you must not need it that badly if you forgot it. And it was like, no, I can't believe I'm pain-free right now.
yeah.
And that's what this is capable of doing for your forearm. I've been suffering from an ulnar nerve issue. I've been suffering from like pickleball elbow, a little tendonitis in my forearm. And it's been just totally life-saving. So I think having that preemptive, so much of it is preemptive. Every day I did an 8-minute cycle on a device called Beamer, Bemer, that's supported by a bunch of pro pickleball players, Tyson McGuffin in particular. And it's a mat that you lay on that increases your blood circulation by up to 30%. As we heard, it makes you have the blood circulation of a 21-year-old.
Does that affect your drinking?
But truly, I think that made a world of a difference. And when I didn't do it on the finals day, I felt like my hands were a lot slower. And then the Beamer representative with whom I was speaking later was like, yeah, that's what we hear. If you get used to doing it and then you don't, you'll feel like your reaction time, your reaction speed's a little less. So I think from a recovery standpoint and a mental acuity and clarity standpoint, the Beamer helped a lot. And in fact, right now through July 10th, they're pretty expensive devices, but they're over $1,000 off. So if that's something that you're interested in, Beamer has supported us quite a bit. You can DM us on Instagram or make a comment in YouTube.
Or
but we can hook you.
thispblife@gmail.com.
You could email thispblife@gmail.com and we can hook you up with the coupon code and what you need to get that $1,000 off.
Yeah. And what's cool about Beamer is you're progressively improving your overall body, your circulation, your microcirculation, which is basically the capillaries pushing blood around versus the heart pushes the main arteries around. But those little tiny parts where all the blood hits your skin and your muscles are the really important part. And every time you use it, it keeps continuing to improve. It's not just like, okay, I'm sore, I'm down in the dips, it recovers.
Yeah.
I'm down in the pits, it recovers. It continues to ratchet up like a staircase.
Right.
So I'm really excited to see how that improves throughout the year. And they even have it for horses and for animals. And it's really kind of cool.
It's amazing.
The stuff
it really is amazing.
It all comes back to blood. I mean, blood is through your whole body, and blood helps things filter, helps things move, helps things.
It also helps you if you're dealing with just a wide array of health ailments. You know, there's off-brand uses for everything. I'm not an expert, so I don't want to go into what those are. But this is, you know, any health ailment that could be improved by an increase in blood circulation, which I think is all ailments, should then you guys should use the Beamer for that. And the other thing I did was I kept seeing Dr. Cynthia Baccaro. If you're not following Dr. C, I think every podcast we say you should be following Dr. C. She is the pickleball doctor. She was giving me like huge neck and back and hip adjustments, like literally right before I'd go on court. That doesn't bother me at all. In fact, I think it really, really helps. Yeah. So maybe I'm a weirdo about that, but
no, I think it all comes back to preemptive, you know, like keep doing what's working. It doesn't have to be that you're in pain to go seek help. And a lot of what she's doing is not so much like adjusting an issue, but making sure that you're in your best form. And you've got the K-tape on the back to keep everything.
At one point I did have so much KT and Healy tape on that I felt like I was taped together, and I got a lot of questions about like, oh, what's your injury? I'm like, nothing. Like, this is called preventative. Like, I'm listening to my body. If I feel a little twinge.
It's my exoskeleton.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start calling you Spider Woman.
I've been called worse.
Yes. So thanks again to Dr. C.
Thank you so much.
But the other thing I noticed was your attitude definitely seemed different. I mean, we talked about predator mode,
ice
and
in my
giving
veins.
your team what they needed. But what felt calmer for you here? Is it something you can pinpoint?
I think ultimately just being more confident. Like I went on the court and I felt like, go to work, do your job.
Yeah.
Like a day at the office.
Yeah. Like I just need a 70% day to be better than 50%.
If you're listening, if you're listening and you play golf, and we talk about this a lot on our podcast, Kristen, it's like people go out and they pray for a good day. They're like, I just really want to play well today. I need a good day. I want to beat my friends. I want to win this bet. I just need to have a good day. I want to wake up and just get lucky with a good day. And I think I maybe used to feel a little bit that way in my pickleball game. And now I'm just like, just go to work. Like
just have a normal day.
Have a normal day. Like we talk about what's the difference between a premier player and a challenger player. And something that one of my teammates kept saying, Chris is, like she wants to get better. She wants to raise her ceiling. And for me, it's like, no, I think you need to raise your floor. Like
totally.
At this point, challenger players all have a lot of the skills of premier. Not all of them, but probably the majority. We all have forehands. We all have backhands. It's like Anna Bright talked about on her podcast. It comes down to like decision making. And what I would add to that decision making is raise your worst day's floor. Can you get your floor as close to your ceiling as possible? And that is the difference between challenger and premier to me, is the floor height.
Absolutely. I was just giving a golf lesson this morning, and I say this in almost every lesson. Golf is not a game of how good your best shot is. It's a game of how good your worst shot is. And once you get to a place in your golf game where your bad drive is just like a foot into the rough and your bad putt is on the high side 1 foot past the hole, like those misses are going to result in birdies and pars. And in pickleball, you've got to make balls. You got to get your thirds in. Maybe they're a little high. Maybe they're, something you're going to have to defend.
But you're going to find a way to get it over the net.
You're going to put your body in the position to get the ball over the net and keep fighting and give yourself your chance.
And I know we're not going to talk about the draft. There's another draft in just 3 short weeks coming up. I think you said earlier the challenger teams flipped premier flipped challenger, and there's a full new draft. And those drafting for premier have to be careful that, especially with the women they pick up, because there's so few women, much fewer than men, that those women have really high floors, because there is no dropping. There's no ad drop in premier. You can trade, but who's going to want to trade for a female that's not cutting mustard?
Yeah, and there were only 3 teams going into this week that hadn't changed their lineup at all, and then one of them was the Bay Area. So only 2 teams went through the entire challenger without dropping anyone.
And Bay Area did have a substitution.
Or putting anyone on waiver, as MLP likes to say. But yeah, so there was a lot of switch around in the challenger, which the premier players are locked in unless you trade. You can trade within premier, or someone gets injured, which we saw, I think 4 or 5 players have to drop out of one event. So
well, I think it's just so easy to talk about, like upside. This person has so much upside. I actually think it's that's great that they have upside, but where is their floor right now?
Yeah.
Right now, like right in this moment.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you did decide to join Challenger in the mid-season, because like obviously there was a world in which you could have just waited for this next draft, and rolled the dice and hoped to get on Premier. But obviously,
I love MLP too much to wait
so much, and you got to show up.
It's such a gift,
show how consistent
and a joy to play. And just thank you to everyone at MLP.
Yeah,
for building this, creating these opportunities for players. I mean, the economics are really amazing for MLP. So like I won I think $7,500 when you look at my appearance fee and then the prize money, and then those 2 numbers get doubled because I'm a PPA gold card holder. So I'll get my expenses hopefully reimbursed, so walk away with close to $10,000 from this. Now, if I were in Premier, those numbers are what, 2.5x? 25, 30
throwing
grand?
Out the super final, just saying regular one event.
Yeah, it is financially very, very different at the Premier level.
Yeah, it's like 10 doubled. Plus, if you got MVP, I don't know. Oh, no, I guess that's just the Margaritaville prize, so that's not a monetary value. But, yeah. So, yeah, it definitely is a huge difference monetarily. But Would there any place you'd rather be?
No, of course.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not complaining about the
No,
prize money.
I
I was
didn't say in that
mentioning the
respect.
prize
It's
money because I think we have a lot of people always interested in, like, I told you, like, I met a gentleman the other day and he's like, you play pro pickleball, you make any money doing that? So I'm not like shy of sharing facts and figures and numbers, and a lot of this is just publicly available as well.
Yeah, totally. So what was your favorite memory this week?
Oh, wow. I think my favorite memory was when it was all over and you came on the court and we had a little twirl.
It was a good twirl.
It was a twirl.
You're strong.
I was amped
Wiry
up.
strong.
I think my other favorite memory was my sister, Natalie, was there. She likes to call herself the prettier and better at pickleball sister. I think neither of those are true.
Or the world is being deprived of Natalie's pickleball.
We have a fun banter. She came, and it's really nice to have family like that in the stands, because then when you're angry, you look at them and you give them like the death stare. Like, there's a level of abuse that I won't give Kristen that, like, I wish I could, because I'm so used to, like, growing up and my mom would be watching me play tennis, or my sister, and there's like this really emotional connection where you can, like, want to just take all of your angst and anger and, like, put it on the person watching you. Yeah, not
then,
like abuse
receive
them.
it and deal with it for you.
And then my mom growing up would always, like, point to her cheekbone and go, smile. And so it's like the last thing you want to see when you're really angry is your mom looking at you telling you to smile, but she's always right. So it was just fun to, like, have my sister there and give her, like, dirty looks and then give her smiles. And, like, we ran into each other's arms at the end of one of the matches. So just doing it in front of, like, hometown crowd was so special.
Totally. No, I'm glad they made it. And it was great that, you know, your mom moved heaven and earth to reschedule a bunch of doctor's appointments to be there.
And I do think, too, like, so special to see just the team do it. Like, Daniel De La Rosa wasn't picked up in the first event. And Ben Newell was inconceivably dropped from the Atlanta Bouncers. And here they both are winning. And it's like, that's what's also so fun about MLP is it's like a little bit of a game within a game. Like, it's like golf where they say the bet is won or lost on the first hole before you tee off. I think MLP's won or lost in the draft.
It definitely looks that way a lot of times. And not to, again, get too deep into the weeds, but I think every season you can look at, like, one third or fourth round pick that really was like the sneak into the team pick that made the difference. And we'll see who that next sneaky pick may be in the next draft. But we definitely had a lot to cover. Do you want to try and squeeze in one Jilly B?
Of course. Give me a Dear Jilly B question.
Okay. This is a little bit of a long question, but the crux of which is about paddles. And this question comes from another Cynthia, not Dr. Cynthia, but she says she keeps noticing all of these carbon fiber paddles, and you can kind of get lost in what we like to joke is black paddle phenomena.
BPP.
But there are tons, and a lot of the videos you see, you seem to like. Legacy Pro's one you haven't tried, but other than that, why do you see so many of these carbon fiber paddles out there and they're popular with the amateurs, but you don't see the pros playing them? Is it just that they're not regarded as highly, or is it simply a matter of money with companies not compensating players to play their equipment? Thanks and good luck.
It's a really good question. Thank you for submitting it. So I do have a Legacy Pro paddle that I received at the PPA Atlanta from one of the founders, and I have tried it once. I will do a review on it, so you should see that soon. I think what you have to remember is a lot of these pros have been picked up by very established businesses like Yola, which has had a long time presence in ping pong. So they already have a marketing arm, an operations arm, offices in multiple countries and continents around the world. They're developed businesses. Same thing with Selkirk. Very large, very successful manufacturer right here in America, in Idaho. So then you've got these legacy pros, these Vatics, and they're like 1 to 2 person companies. So they're not only are they working on the R&D components themselves of trying to build the best paddle they can build, they're also building a business. customer support, return policies, marketing, ops, finance. So it's like, you know, their capital is probably spread thin. They're going to reinvest every dollar back into the business. And if they're seeing money coming in from amateurs purchasing their paddles, well, that's the path of least resistance. They're seeing success there. They're bringing money in through that channel. So for them to go and divert funds, which they need, by the way, to order more paddles, they need money to, like, you see all these companies that are sold out, right? Like Legacy took me like 2 months to get a paddle. Took them 2 months to get me a paddle.
6-0 always sold out. Filth sold out all the time.
They would order more paddles if they had more money. So they're in a constant game of, well, I'll order another 1,000. I don't want to order 5,000. I don't want to be left holding the bag on 4,000 paddles that I paid for, but now I can't sell because USAP changed their rules, or it's failing this delamination issue, or there's another new hot paddle on the market. Now no one wants us. So they're in this constant like game.
They've got buckets and they have to choose where to put their money in these buckets, and pro players is not necessarily a first priority bucket.
Exactly. So that's kind of, circuitous route. I'm tired from MLP is, yes, like the pro is the last bucket for a scrappy startup company who's seeing traction at the amateur level and trying to reinvest every single dollar into making sure Jessica doesn't have to wait 7 weeks to get the paddle she wants.
Right. Right.
That's where they're putting their money. Now, if
With
they
the
had
one exception that Volair is started by a pro pickleball player as a kind of partnership. But there's
so if
very
I were
few
some of
that.
these paddle companies, I would be giving up small pieces of equity with a lot of these up and coming or established pro players, because I do think there's super value add to having them. And I think that that's a really low hanging fruit, but a lot of them don't want to do that, and kudos to them. They think they don't need it, and maybe they don't.
Well, it's interesting too, because like it's probably never gonna get cheaper to get a pro to start using your product. It's only gonna get more expensive.
And don't forget, a lot of these brands, Vatic and Legacy, they're brand new. I mean, Yola has a year head start on them, which doesn't sound like a lot, but pickleball's dog years.
Well, kudos to Carbon.
Yep.
Who's also kind of the exception to that rule. Started in our
they've been around
in our hometown, in your hometown anyway. But definitely with the backing of a Hurley, with a history of success in
Ryan Hurley,
other markets and other products. So
I have a Dear Jilly B question.
Okay.
It's from Jilly B. This one's really important.
It must be a goodie.
Dear Jilly B, last MLP, you had a history of falling on the court. How many times did you fall this MLP?
Signed, Jilly B. Best of luck, and thanks for listening.
0. I fell 0 times.
How many times did Ben Newell fall?
A few. No, once.
But he definitely got back up and you won that point.
Yes.
The one I remember. No, if you ain't falling, you ain't trying. I think that head trauma definitely
something to do with
increased it. But it's interesting because I think you did have a history of being on your knees and doing some proposal Dave Villardo's and jiving-ish, rolling, going for things and getting back up. And I feel like since it became such a thing after Daytona, and then Dr. C was like, it also might be like ankle mobility and strength, this, that, and the other. Like, I think it inspired in you a different regimen, like urgency in trying to stay on your feet than maybe before.
Totally.
We'll never know. But all in all, great fun, great pickle.
Thank you. Thank you
really
so much.
Exciting stuff. People really enjoyed watching you.
And congratulations to
congrats.
Chicago Slice and Bay Area Breakers and LA Mad Drops and the New Jersey Fives, the Mashers.
ATX.
And of course, Seattle Pioneers. Like, oh my gosh, just such fun games. Kudos to all of the players. Kudos to MLP, and congratulations to everyone.
Yeah. My favorite MLP moment was also when we twirled, but outside of that, watching Lucy blow a kiss
to Hayden. I texted her this morning, and I was like, Lucy, that was amazing. I died. And she wrote back that they have a good on-court banter, which they really do.
So
but
next week,
super important. Chris and I won a trip to Margaritaville. There's 3 locations. We can go to Cancun, Maya Rivera, Mexico, or the Dominican Republic. We need to hear from you. Where should we go?
yes, Dominican, Mexico, or Mexico.
That was the most valuable player award.
Yeah, we're super stoked on that. Yeah, leave us a comment. Tell us where we should go. It's Maya Rivera.
No way to know.
No way to know. Anyway, you can listen back to the airplay, and also a reminder: we loved seeing all our fans in the Jilly B hats. If you want to get yourself a Jilly B hat, we're going to be making some special edition Jilly B hats with MVP on the side. But head over to pbgods.com. You can use code PBLifers for 10% off. And as always, please submit us questions. We love your questions. Keep them coming. thispblife@gmail.com.
See you next week.
See you next week. Next week we will be talking about, is rally scoring the future? We're going to do a rally scoring deep dive. And in a perfect world, what does the event makeup look like? PPA, MLP, how many events should there be, and where will they be? So be sure to tune in for that next week. But thanks again for tuning in and being a part of our journey.
We out.
This Pickleball Life is a Tomahawk production, 100% organic, self-made, and homegrown. Music by K-Dubs, editing by K-Dubs and Jilly B. Check out pbgods.com and use code PBLifers for 10% off your next order. Do you have a question for Jilly B? Email us at thispblife@gmail.com to be included in future episodes. Don't forget to click subscribe.
This Pickleball Life.